Race Brain Podcast. I am Rich Ryan today, joined by Chris Rogloski and Jack Bauer. But Chris, even though you're here as a special guest, we're not talking to you yet because first I need to kick to Jack. Jack, right before we started up, Spartan drops a bomb on us. So even though this is the OCR Worlds preview show, we are going to Spartan commandeer OCR Worlds again and talk about Spartan to start. What did they drop on us right before we started?
Now, two of the three hosts on the show right now are aware of this information. Now, the only one who doesn't know this is Chris Rogloski. We're going to drop some news for you. So, Chris, they just announced everything about the 2025 U.S. National Series, the Elite Series next year. Okay. All four events are sprints. And they're the usual venues: Jacksonville, Utah, Big Bear. And then they're, for the first time, going to Charlotte for a new venue right there. So what are your thoughts? And I think it's best 3 out of 4, Bracken. Is that correct?
3 out of 4. All 4 are sprints. 2 East Coast, 2 West Coast. East Coast is flat. West Coast is altitude and mountainous.
Chris, you're the fast one here. What do you think?
I'm in. This gives a little more variety, but no beast is an interesting move. Or is there no base?
No super, no beast.
Literally 4 straight
All
sprints.
sprints.
100% of them are sprints.
But you get to skip one.
So will one of these count as a sprint world championships?
No, this is just the
U.S.
series.
National Series.
So it's just sprints.
Yeah.
Is this even Spartan anymore?
Spartan, their first event was a sprint, as far as I know.
Yeah, it was.
But they've always had the long beast.
Correct. We've never had this.
We've never had a 3K series. We had that.
That's true.
Which means like 2026 Super Series is coming out.
That's the non-canon reboot that none of the fanboys acknowledge even exists in the same universe. The 3K doesn't count.
Hey, Chris won one of those.
Well, the races count, but that wasn't a Spartan National Race Series. That was a 3K series. So in terms of the U.S., National Series or the North American Series, have we ever had more than one sprint in a series?
Just by default, it always has Jacksonville in there. And if I'm thinking about
which isn't even always a sprint.
No. I was going to say previous years we had Alabama and Jacksonville as supers actually one year. We've had Breckenridge was a sprint one year, right? It was like a 50-something minute sprint.
It was a sprint. Montana was a 59-minute sprint one year.
It's disgusting.
I mean, that was back in a 5.5 mile sprint days.
Yeah.
But that's the closest we've ever come to even having a sprint
at most
in the Elite Series. Is an hour of racing. And now we have 4, 2 of which, Jacksonville and Charlotte, are going to be fast.
Do you think anyone will get a sub 30 sprint?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Jacksonville, no doubt. Utah, that's going to be a little tough. But Big Bear, definitely you're not going sub 30. But what I would love to see, and no way of knowing if it'll happen, but we did see that kind of double loop a few years ago when VJ, remember when they had the snow on the mountain at Big Bear and they kind of had to change it last minute and it was a double loop and you really got some obstacle density. If they can find a way to do something like that, that could make it a little bit more intriguing as a true obstacle race. I hope that they make some adjustments.
It's different for sure. Now we've seen mountain sprints in the past and it's generally like 2 climbs. You have a short climb and you have a big climb and the race is done. So if they don't do multiple laps, it's you're over on the mountain, you're done. There's not going to be much time to do anything other than go up and down once or twice. So you don't get to use the venue much, but you get a sample of it. It's the thing I do like about it is that the shorter the race distance, the closer the finish times. So purely competition and visuals, it's going to help.
Yeah. Chris, are you excited about something like this, or not just you, but do you think that athletes will be excited if they're perennial podium threats, or are they going to be like, oh man, this isn't the old Spartan, I'm not really interested in it? How do you think most of the top athletes are going to take this news?
I don't know that I can really speak for them. To me, I kind of like this. This sounds like fun. I think there is something like I've only done 2 full series, full of like the,
start to finish,
whatever their
enough
national
points to
series.
qualify. Yeah.
Right. And the one that I did was the 3K, and I don't hate that. I think it kind of gives something, to me, it gives a little more structure. It gives a little more, you kind of know what's going on. I also don't love it because I feel like that makes them all kind of boring. If they're only, an hour and a half max, nobody's going to
It'd be way
spend more
less
than
than that.
45 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And so then it's like, now it's kind of, again, I would say the downside of the 3K is you're traveling to all these different locations, doing all these things to race for. I mean, the 3K, you're racing for a total of however much time. I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a lame way to bring people to these different locations and see these different venues when you're just doing 3 miles as fast as you can. Like, I don't know.
Well, they do have Croatia coming up for the Sprint World Championship, and from the interviews that I heard, it's going to be about 6.5K. So even though it's not your standard 5K, like they'll probably have a little bit of wiggle room in there. They can make the courses shorter or longer, because why do consistency after you define that that's the length of a race? But I do think that there is a little bit of hope if they can really cram in some obstacles. And my other guess on this is that they're trying to make this more TV viewer friendly, and there's less likelihood of disappearing out in the woods and not being able to see anybody for half an hour if they're trying to bring some type of coverage back. A sprint is a very controlled type of setup. They kind of had that idea with the multiple laps for the 1,000 meters for the 3K course. And I think that this is kind of more towards Spartan's roots, while also keeping it at least close to home for coverage possibilities.
Do we know anything about what their coverage plans are yet?
No,
this got announced like an hour ago.
No, we don't have any details. They haven't announced whatever fictional prize money they are allocating to this, but this is interesting because it satisfies a portion of the community who just wants it to be fast and doesn't want to have to run the half marathon. However, that's generally not the high end of the sport. Our sport's kind of dominated by long distance athletes. Every single winner of the national series ever has also been able to win an ultra. And as a result, they're generally people who like to play in the mountains for a long time. So even though other sports, like, you don't go and choose the Diamond League Track Series because of the epic location and course, you go because of the competition. Spartan Race has always had the opposite, which is people travel for the venue and for the epic scale of it. And you don't get an epic scale in a 30-minute race. So I don't know what effect that's going to have on this. It should make it more competitive. Like, you cannot run with Hawk Call for 2 hours in Utah. You can't. No. You might be able to for 28 minutes in Jacksonville, especially if he misses a spear. Like, there's hope for more people to be in contact when the finish line is looming. But is that enough to counteract why would I travel all the way to Utah or Big Bear to go into oxygen debt for 25 minutes at altitude?
We're used to seeing every single race weekend go long to short, and basically starts with a beast, ends with a sprint, for instance. I don't think that they necessarily need to do that for this. They could switch it up, and then to kind of appeal to the athletes like Chris was referring to, where it's like, why would you show up here for a half an hour and you can't even access these mountains that are on the venue? If you do a sprint on a Saturday, and then you have Sunday, you can run a beast, you can do that traditional Spartan course, and some people will stick around, surely. I think that there is a little possibility. Will they do that? I have no idea. I haven't looked at the calendar, what day of the week it's going to be on, but that could at least maybe entice some people to make it worth traveling for more than 30 minutes of a race.
Did you see age group series?
They are having 2 separate ones, an East Coast and a West Coast.
Correct. Now, East Coast is it's Jacksonville?
Of course.
Charlotte.
It is Charlotte also?
I believe so.
Okay. Was it Killington also?
didn't see that.
Okay.
There's an email. Let me pull that up.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I know that they officially announced that like a few weeks ago, and I like the
email went
divide.
out today.
Oh, okay.
To the masses. All right, here we go. Elite, yeah, sprint. Age group: Jacksonville, sprint. Charlotte, sprint. Ohio, sprint. So East Coast is all sprints. West Coast: Big Bear, beast. Montana, super. Utah, beast.
And this is age group series.
Age group. So there are two different series. There's basically the sprint series on the East Coast and the long distance mountain series on the West Coast. And that is a good mix of series between the two.
Yeah, you can kind of pick your poison right there. You've almost remember the old days when they had the mountain series. Like that was a thing. It's like you like running mountains, here's your series. It might not have been as well attended, but if you like that as your specialty, you at least had something that you could strive for.
Yeah.
But what if you're on the East Coast and want to run some beasts?
You have to travel to the West Coast.
That's true. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you're not going to some bad venue. It's tough for travel, but like going to Montana, going to Utah, or like
Montana's a fan favorite, but it's at a different place. Last year they were at this for the first time, I believe, and so it's not the old,
not a Big Sky or whatever it used to be.
Yeah, but so anyway, the first thing we always do is go right into our critiques. My critique of this is that I would rather see one of each on each coast. Like give East Coast one chance to run flat and fast, and then give them a mountain. And then give West Coast a chance to go flat and fast and give them a mountain.
They could have done Washougal or something if
Yeah. And then give them Big Bear or whatever epic mountain you want to give them. They have so many options out there. But like Chris said, if you live on the East Coast, if you want a mountain, you have a 4-hour flight. And if you live West Coast and you want to sprint, well, good luck. You've got to go the other direction. So I like the idea of 2 series. I even like the idea. I mean, no, I don't like the idea of 2 series, but I like the idea of giving 2 options, a sprint series and a mountain series, but I don't like that it's coastal.
I kind of do like the coast. I don't like necessarily the course design for each of them, but I do like that it at least simplifies travel.
And it doesn't, though. I don't mind it being East and West Coast if you had options of both.
But look at like
West
a population,
Coast mountains, East Coast sprint. That doesn't help people's travel.
I get it for the course design, but if like you look, most of the country lives on the coast, so it's like it's going to be a north-south travel rather than east-west for most people.
Good theory. I like east-west. That's fine.
Yeah.
I don't like the execution of let's hope East Coast doesn't want to run mountains and long.
Okay.
Because what if you think about OCR on the East Coast, it's essentially Florida, and then it's all the people up in the Vermont tri-state area who want to run big mountains and just live on the nasty trails. So they don't get anything. So 50% of your audience is forced to go to the West Coast, and they don't get their technical mountains. They don't get their white mountains. They don't get the Killington experience. It doesn't have to be Killington, but the Appalachian Trail style running that they all love and are good at. It's weird.
I want to know from Chris, let's say you get the role, you're in charge of selecting the 2025 US National Series race venues, number of races, distances, whatever. Go design next year's series. What would you have done?
Okay, well, first, on this age group series, my first question is it possible to hit all 6 races and win both series?
Yes.
Yeah?
For sure. Yeah.
Okay.
You've at least got 4 of them that are on different dates because they're the same venue as the elite, and now you just need to make sure that Ohio and Montana are not on the same. And Montana,
I shouldn't say for sure because Montana is TBA.
That's typically late May, early June, and Ohio is often around the same time, actually.
So here are the dates we have. Jacksonville is March 2nd. Charlotte is April 6th. Ohio is May 18th. So essentially a month in between them all, but a month and a week in between that. And then Big Bear is, May 17th. So Big Bear and Ohio are on the same weekend. Montana is TBA. Let's just pencil that in for, I mean, it's usually the first week of May. Yeah, and then Utah is July 12th. So the Ohio race and the Big Bear race do overlap. But if it's best 2 out of 3, then you still could win both.
Is it 2 out of 3?
That I don't know.
Okay. It's probably in the email, but that's a good point,
Chris.
At that email, who wouldn't want to run the Big Bear Beast on destroyed legs, right, Chris? Who would ever do something like that after High Rocks World Champs or anything? Yeah.
Sounds insane.
Sounds fun. Yeah.
I think a perfect 5 races, do 4 out of 5 is a great, that's very doable. Most people can hit 4 weekends, 4 out of 5 weekends. And I like the idea of, I'm kind of torn between, do we do iconic courses or do we try to make people go to courses that they've never been to before? But I think there should definitely be a Killington. I think there should be Utah. There should be somewhere between those 5 races. Each of these courses should have something that somebody going into it would be the favorite. This is a flat and fast. This is a mountain. This is an altitude. There should be some different aspect to all of them. And that gives you can either choose okay, do I go to something that's challenging? Do I put in a lot of work to try to hit the top of a certain race? Or do I just go for my strengths? But to do all sprints, okay, all sprints. So to me, there's not as much strategy and doesn't make as much as interesting when it's all the same thing. Just run faster. Don't mess up on any obstacles. Maybe go a couple days early if it's at altitude, but otherwise you just kind of show up and do them. Whereas I feel like if there was more variety, you would actually have to kind of shift your training focus as each of these races come up. This is going to be, you have to move more towards these other things. To me personally, that would appeal to me because I don't want to just be running, training for a 5K and fast obstacles all the time. I would rather we have mountains, so let's switch. I mean, I think that's also a lot of why I switch things up in general. All the different races I do is I want to be able to shift and explore different possibilities of what I'm able to do and strengthen different things that may have been weaknesses before. I think that gives everybody an opportunity to actually, instead of just, oh, well, I'm good at this, I'm going to go do all these and it'll probably squeeze out a lot of people. They're like, oh, well, can't keep up on, I can't run as fast as the top people. So what's the point even? Mm-hmm. I'm always for the variety, and then it should be in all the different. I don't know how I feel about the East Coast and West Coast age group series. I feel like that's kind of a weird. I don't really get why they would do that even.
If they had an East Coast, West Coast age group series and they had a sprint super beast, one of each distance, and then had a flat, a mountain, whatever, then it would seem a little bit more fair. And you just happen to not have elevation options on the East Coast because of how the country's built. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, at least make it I would say more balanced, a well-balanced. And it seems to me, I don't know what their goal is here. Are they trying to make sprint the top thing, but they can't get enough in the West Coast? So they're well, for you West Coast age groupers, since we can't do sprint, we'll do this. I don't really know what the point of it is. And it feels, to me, it doesn't feel very well planned, I guess. They're just kind of oh, here's an idea. Okay, let's run with it. And I don't feel like they've thought through what's the goal here.
I would agree with that. What are we testing?
Yes.
The East Coast series mirrors to an extent the Pro series, and the West Coast does not.
And it's, because I would personally, I would rather do the West age group series than any of these sprint series. Just doing sprints over and over is that's not something that I would be excited about. I guess that's what it is.
What would it take for you to show up?
Well, I have paid my prize money as of 3 weeks ago. I'm now fully paid up. So there is we're now at a zero, we're not at in the negative or level of zero playing field. Yeah, what would it take for me to show up? I don't know yet,
Like,
but it's not there.
For instance,
I don't plan to show up.
this year they had 2 of the 3 races have prize money, because originally they were just going to do it at the end of the series and have none at the individual races, and then they realized, oh, that's probably a bad idea, and then they ended up having 2,500, 1,500, only top 3. I have a feeling that's probably not enough to get people out there again. At least the fields we're used to.
And here's the thing that I've been thinking about more. People are like, well, you do it for the love of the sport. Like, yes, we're here for the love of the sport. But if I'm here for the love of the sport, I'm not going to travel to all these flat 3-mile courses for the love of the sport. If we're talking love of the sport, I'm choosing the West Coast Age Group Series. So the whole love of the sport, like, the love of the sport for me, if there's some kind of financial, I'll travel to anywhere if I will be financially reimbursed for it. Like, if there's some level of, if I race to my potential, if I do well, there's some level of like, I'll be compensated for that. So either money or, I mean, competition. There's really no competition. They've driven the entire competition out. And that's kind of where I was after the 2022 series, or no, 2023 series. I was like, I showed up to all these races. I didn't get paid for any of them when they promised all this money, and I won the series and won a chunk of cash. Like, didn't get any of like the external incentives. And then not only that, but there's just not a lot of competition in the sport. They don't make it appealing for top athletes to come and pursue this. They don't make it appealing. They don't make it they don't make it easy. It's very difficult to try to make all of these races work in all these different places. And so I don't have a lot. There's not a lot of extrinsic things kind of pulling me in right now. And then intrinsically, there's not a lot of competition in it right now. And so after doing, I was like, I'm going to do the whole series. And then I won the series, but it was more just because I showed up to all the races and placed top 3. And that's kind of a like, yay. But, and then you don't get paid out until almost an entire year later. And so what's the point? It doesn't match up for me.
That love of the game is an interesting argument you make. And I agree with it, because doing something for the love of the game means on your terms. It doesn't mean here's where the races are. If you love this sport, you'll come do it. That's not how this works. So I agree with you. It's for a race series that is a little uninspiring to what the current top core group of OCR would want to do. Then it has to either have everyone there or have a lot of prize money, or at least enough prize money to say that, yeah, I covered my costs on the weekend. Cool. Now I can go do love of the game stuff. But they can't guarantee either right now. The last time we saw everyone there was probably what? Palmerton 3K? Is that the last time?
Big race, or Alula, I guess. But yeah, in
Maybe
the
Alula.
US National Series race, probably Palmerton.
Yeah, and there was a buzz there. There was atmosphere there. If they could guarantee that, I think everyone shows up. Or if they could say we're giving out 3, 2, 1, 750, 500, then a bunch of people show up. But without either of those two guarantees, and you can't guarantee everyone's going to show up, then you can only start with money. And then that gets like 5 or 6 top people there. And then the next 5 or 6 will show up to race them. I don't know.
I think that if we look at the National Series, most athletes who are, currently participating, or at least did last year, probably 80, 90% of them debuted within a year or so of COVID, plus or minus. Most of the original people are not here. And every single year that these newer athletes have been around, it's been Jacksonville, Utah, Big Bear, over and over again. You always hear about Killington, but they place it like a week before OCR Worlds, and most people aren't built like Chris, where they could just do that and be able to recover and then do a race, or the next weekend. And I just think that it's the venues might not necessarily be inspiring. I bet if they did a sprint series and they were like, all right, and they're not doing West Virginia because that's Trifecta Worlds, for instance, which I think is a fantastic decision. But so that has like a little bit more higher prestige there. But if they had like a Killington sprint, even if it's a sprint at Killington, that's still not going to be easy at all. And then they went to Montana and just a couple of venues that we're not used to, and had a revolving venue series, I guess, that might get a little bit more inspiration. Because if you look at the European regional championship every year, it's never the same. They've had it in Austria, they've had it in Morzine, they've had it in Spain, they've had it in Slovakia, like a ton of different countries. And I think that kind of gets people excited because it's like, oh, where's it going to be this year? As opposed to let's get a late winter, early spring flight to Jacksonville again, and in the summer get ready for the heat in Utah. I think the lack of newness is probably what I would critique the most.
Yeah, when people get franchise fatigue with movies, like there's three things that happen. One, you reboot it. Spartan's done that several times in a row. They just keep rebooting their series. Hasn't necessarily captured the audience. The second thing you do is you go nostalgic. You bring back the original actors, you bring back some of the old school plots, and then people who used to love it come back. And then the third thing you do is you completely take it in a new direction. And Spartan's tried that as well. So I think it's nostalgic time. I think it's nostalgia time. My guess is if you wanted to bring the most people back out of the woodworks, you would say we're recreating the 2013 to 15 series.
Do it like CrossFit where you were like the open workout is going to be 14.1 again. We've done it before. Now,
yeah, we're doing Seattle. It's going to be short. It's going to be in spring, so it's going to be nasty. We're doing the New Jersey Super. We're doing Palmerton. We're going to do something in California. It's not going to be Big Bear. And then we are going to put World Championships at Killington or North American Championships at Killington. I think that kind of series will get people back into it. Like I'd like to go back and do all those things we used to do. People loved Palmerton. People loved New Jersey.
Yeah.
They loved Killington. Can you imagine all the beast, like that beast and ultra specific athletes of the sport who have dominated it for years? If they got a chance to do another gnarly old school Killington World Championship or North American Championship, I think they'd all come out. Yeah. So we might just need to reboot it old school style.
I'm also like, why do they keep using the same venues? Like, as much as we're like, oh, like it's one thing to recycle a venue 10 years later. Like, oh, remember 10 years later, we were out at Killington. But I'm like, to use the same venue every time, there's only so much switch up you can do on the course every time. Mm-hmm. And so you're literally, as much as it's, they're trying to standardize it. Okay. But at the same time, Spartan, like, there's supposed to be different races. Like, it's a different race. And as much you can standardize the distance, you can even standardize some of the obstacles, but why are we doing the exact same courses over and over? The same locations. Like, what is it about Jacksonville other than, I mean, it's in the spring and it's warm down there, but there's a whole lot of southern venues. Texas has some great venues that you could do in, when it's warm in the springtime. Yeah. Warm in the springtime. You can actually, I don't know, to go back to Jacksonville over and over, like, that doesn't make any sense
money.
Yeah. They're getting the tourism board to pay them to sponsor it.
Spartans never needed money more than they have in the last 5 years. And that's why the venues don't change, because they have found venues that they bring money to the town and the town pays them a significant, probably outside of their biggest sponsorship, it's their biggest like check they get each year is by the towns that bring them in. And so they have to do it, and they can charge more if it's a series event.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense then.
Bracken, didn't like several years ago, there was some, for Tahoe, when people found out it was the North American champ versus the World Championship. That was right around when Abu Dhabi got announced for the first time, and there were like some meeting notes, and it was like they'll pay this much for this type of deal, and then like whatever title it was, there was a certain amount of money for each tier.
Yeah, I got hold of the PDF that they were using as their sales pitch for local tourism boards, and it was like, I forgot, it was like 200,000 for national series races and 400,000 for North American champs and world champs and stuff. That's how much they were charging the cities to bring them in. And so if you have 4 stops, you're looking at nearly $1 million just in being able to show up and get paid to show up. So that's why, I mean, they have to, right? This is one of the only things keeping them afloat through these times, were these big payouts from these cities. So they do have to keep going back there currently, unfortunately, but it doesn't mean that those are the only 5 cities that are willing to do that on this earth.
Yeah, because they got Ohio and Charlotte to be age groups this year. Those are
but positives.
Yeah.
Positives. A, it is going to make the races more competitive. B, probably the most positive thing out of all of this is October 1st. We have had this 2 of the last 3 years at least, something in December saying, hold on, we're about to announce it. And it almost ticks over to January sometimes before we find out about the February kickoff to the series. So this is really positive. If you do want to do this, you can begin planning right now, and you have a 4-month lead in to the first race. That's as good as we've had in a long time. So for that, I applaud them. We may not agree with their choices, but I think that we can all agree that the new people taking over here are trying to bring the sport back and do it the best that they can.
Yeah, it's easy to pick holes in stuff like this. We're just kind of giving critiques from the competitive side. It's like, oh, venue fatigue and stuff, but they're trying something new. I don't mind that at all. Like, I think it was cool that they tried a 3K series just to see what would happen. And there's a lot of potential that can if they send, or if they give enough prize money, enough top athletes will come back, and it'll be exciting, and it'll create a buzz, and like it'll be because they tried something different.
And I think venue fatigue is actually a misnomer. It's course fatigue, because we saw with Seattle just recently, they changed the course up, and that course got real hot all of a sudden. People are like, I would go race there next year. Well, we've had Seattle every year for a decade. So it actually wasn't venue fatigue. People aren't sick of going to Jacksonville. They're sick of running the Jacksonville course. And that, if they switch that up, which they have the ability to, we have run there multiple times, and we've seen they can run a cross-country course. They can run a swamp course. They can do something with 7 swims. They can do something with no swims. If they choose to use the terrain and get very creative, and that requires man hours, which Spartan didn't have to go around for a while, you can make the same venue an entirely different experience every year, unless you're on a ski hill. The ski hill courses that don't allow you to use certain parts, which is what Chris was talking about, West Coast ski hills, there's only so many runs you can use, and there's only certain surfaces you can use. You can be as creative as you want. You're not going to get much of a different product. But Jacksonville, you could go 10 years in a row and never run the same course.
Yeah. Bracken, another positive. Could you pull up that email again with the dates? You said it was March 2nd for the age group series, for instance?
March 2nd.
Okay. And what is the last date? July?
Currently, July 12th, but Montana is TBA. But it's got to sit in between those.
Probably going to be about this. So you've got about a 4.5 month window. That's it for the season. We don't have a 10-month season right here. You finish up in July. If you want to do Trifecta Worlds, which is in West Virginia, I think that's in September, you've got, 10, 12 weeks potentially to load up for that. And if you're looking for your, some of the athletes who like being out on the course longer, Trifecta World Championship weekend at probably the most respected U.S. venue in terms of it doesn't suit any one skill set. It's the most fair and exciting one out there. You've got a chance to, make your season revolve around that afterwards. They actually spaced it out nicely. So I think that's a huge plus.
Yeah. I would say that other than Ohio and what was that one? Montana being on the same day. Is it Montana? Big Bear. Yeah. Other than that, this is a really well thought out.
You could technically find a flight on a Saturday night.
Yeah, but you're coming West Coast back to East Coast
after running the Big Bear Beast,
which makes it tougher.
Not going to help performance.
If you're not on a flight by 7 p.m., you're out of luck. Off the West Coast.
Chris, what's your craziest post race? I've got to get somewhere else to run another race type of flight experience.
I think it was Big Bear last year, where I went from Big Bear on Friday afternoon. I think I was supposed to fly out of Vegas at around 9 or 10, but my flight was delayed an hour. I ended up, I think, getting a whole different flight, and I made it to Savage Race in Maryland by 7:30, 8 the following morning. But
for a 9 o'clock start.
I probably got there an hour before it started. So I think I landed, got in a car, drove out there, and that was just I ended up taking a Frontier flight out. And so, you're sitting straight up in the plane.
So what you're telling me is it is possible to do this if you
It is possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might have to get a private jet, but it is possible.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to, Big Bear, obviously, as Chris experienced, wouldn't be the one you would choose to leave quickly and get to an airport, because what airport
You've got
is near Big Bear?
Ontario, maybe an hour and a half, but like drive. You're looking at least probably 3 hours between finishing your race and getting your butt on the plane.
Yeah. Now going from East Coast to West Coast is really nice because you time travel back in time and you gain all kinds of time. But that, West to East Coast is a tough move.
If they flip-flopped having Big Bear on, oh, actually, you know what? You said it was on the 17th and Big Bear's first. So
Yeah,
they are doing a sprint, right? Or is that the age group series?
For age group, Big Bear is, let's see here. Let's double check. Ohio's a sprint on Sunday. Big Bear is the beast on Saturday.
Okay. So that means that the Elite series will be on Sunday for a sprint then. Based on that, assuming.
Yes. Wait. No, says the 17th as well. Now we may see this change, but as of right now, it is a sprint.
We have the venues locked in, but not the calendar necessarily.
It says the date for all of them except Montana. But again, this could change. All right. Any other positives to this?
I mean, Nicole, she's probably pumped. She loves this type of stuff. Sucks. I bet VJ is mad that this didn't exist 3-4 years ago and he had to go through all the stuff that he didn't like doing.
He could pivot back to this real quick if there's prize money.
Yeah.
Rose will be pumped. Yep. I would say she's still pursuing this, and at her core, she's a short distance runner.
Yeah. I do think for years, and we've seen it the past couple of years with the 3K World Championship, and then also for the Sprint World Championship this year, they've always had a Beast World Championship. It is nice that if you just like that distance, you have options now, because not everybody can or wants to run for 2 to 3 hours in the mountains. Some people want that shorter, 30 minutes that appeals to them a little bit more. So it at least gives a second option still, but it kind of eliminates you from maybe wanting to do the full series, which is what they're probably hoping for.
Yeah.
All right. That's probably it on the series. So yeah, I think Matt had an interview with Gary, so look out for that at some point coming up. It might even be out already, but more news there.
Yep. 37-minute intro.
Yeah, exactly. And now I think we've got the most important thing in all of Race Brain. Bracken, you want to do the honors?
Wheel of Names?
Oh, yeah.
Wheel of Names.
Chris, you're about to be on a small list of people who have been on the Wheel of Names.
Are you telling me I have to do the Wheel of Names?
Oh, yeah. Share that screen.
That's not my role on this.
You're rich today. You said you were rich. You opened the show saying, I'm Rich Ryan today.
Oh, my goodness. Fine.
Yep.
All right. Wheel of Names.
Share that screen.
I will. You just hold on to your horses.
Yeah. Chris, I'm also looking at your username right there. Do you normally spell it with 2 S's?
No, I normally do like 3 or 4 S's.
Okay. I was like, I swear it's only 1, but
it's definitely just 1. I know I just do a bunch of.
But your actual name is with a C, but when you shorten it for your nickname, you go with a K, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Full name is too long and too weird. Too not.
We ready here?
Oh, there we go. That's the Chris.
The moment is upon us.
3K draft.
Oh, and I love when Jack goes first because then he is the only one to blame when he loses.
I know. Well, give me first place.
First pick, Jack Bauer. Oh, the universe is a cruel mistress. But I will not be denied my moment.
Well, we need Chris to let us know what spot she is, just in case it doesn't land on Bracken this time. Chris, you want 2 or 3?
I'll do 2.
All right. So I'm gonna present and we'll get this going. All right, you guys see it?
Look at that behind the scenes work.
Everyone got it?
We good here?
Chris, you good? Seeing it? I'm not hearing Chris anymore. Is she frozen?
She's good.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. So we've got the 3K list. I just crossed off Igor Belousov, who has podiumed here before, because I was told while we were on this call that he is not going to be there anymore. So same as Eugenio. Let me just look over this rest of this list that I got.
Igor's a pretty big loss for this field. How many world championships in a row has he had some sort of podium?
At FISO, he's won it. He double podiumed at Stratton before. Like, he is. That's a big deal of him not showing up, honestly.
Yes, it is.
Just going over the rest of this list. Believe we're good. Just gonna change that to an O so it'll copy. Okay.
No Sean Roberts. I heard a rumor he'd be going.
Really? Because he's going to Croatia.
Correct. Okay.
You want me to add him?
No. That we'll save that for someone's wild card.
Oh, okay. Well, I think I'll be going first. Yeah.
You have anyone blacked out, whited out, invisible on here, misspelled?
Not. Where's Yanka? Nope, not on the list.
Okay.
So, yep. It's good.
All right.
Number one pick. I've got to go Nicole Miracle. I mean, she's won so many of these titles. She won a title here last year in the 15K, not the 3K, with that crazy. Or no, wait, she did win the 3K with that crazy finish over Lindsay, where she caught up on that cargo net at the end of the race. So I don't think we're going to see anything close to that this year. And if I'm banking on getting points, she's the heavy favorite out of either field.
I just saw Corinna's on this list.
Yeah,
you're right.
It
said Corinna Perkins, and I'm like, oh wait, that's Coffin. So that's why I added the Coffin right there, just to.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
When's the last time she did an obstacle course race other than Spartan Games?
Stadium races a couple of years ago, but that's about it.
Did she do any of the 3K series?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
It's been a while then.
Yeah.
This is the entire men's field.
Okay.
There are probably honestly
I'm gonna go for
like 50 of them. I just kind of narrowed it down to notable names. But yes, for that, effectively.
FISO kind of blew this out of the water.
Mm-hmm. But Croatia being a week later is what really diluted it in different continents, and not just different continents.
Who owns
West Coast?
The race happening in Croatia?
Probably Spartan.
Who owns this one?
Spartan.
Oh, that's
so
weird.
they had a chance. Yeah. All right, Nicole, who are you going with?
I think I'm gonna go with Ethan Brown. I'm taking Ethan Brown.
Ethan
Brown in the 3K, this year's National Series champion, 20-something podiums a couple years ago, and I think that he was like 6th or 7th here. Not much travel in California, so he'll do well for sure.
He's had himself a year.
I think he was about a minute behind Nick Mask in Seattle, so he's fit absolutely right now.
Now, all right, I'm just going to spam the men early on, just like in all my apps, and I am going to go Leon and Manuel. At least one of them is going to be on the podium. Either one could win it.
Yep.
And they've both proven they're just that good. Is Manuel healthy? Is the question. It almost doesn't matter. He still shows up in races everywhere. Is Leon fully back? Almost doesn't matter. He did awesome here last year. So give me them both. One of them, if not both, will be on that podium.
Manuel was 3rd last year in the 3K, and Leon was 3rd in the 15K. And if this helps you, Bracken, I went on a run with Leon recently. So
oh, there it is. The famous Bauer kiss of death.
No. It's always a good sign. People do well when I do that.
I also went on a run with him, so that either brings his chances up or down. But
ooh, maybe a cross effect. Yeah.
When was this run?
Mine was a day later. So last Sunday, maybe 8-9 days ago.
Okay. It's in the window. It's in the Bauer window.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back to you, Chris.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Corinna.
Ooh, team reach so far.
She's just because she hasn't raced, like we have no real idea of how she does against all these people, but I think she's one of the one of the fitter people out there. And I think if she's showing up to a race, she has some level of confidence. So
she's never not going to be fit.
At her best, she's as good as anyone.
That's very profound.
At her OCR best.
Yeah. She got second place in the world.
Has she been running? Has she just been carrying weights and doing ballet underwater? Has she only been firing guns? We don't know what she's most focused on right now. But at her OCR best, she's as good as anyone.
Yeah. We'll just see if she can bring back 2014 in 2024.
Well, Jack is all hot and bothered over here for his next pick.
Oh, I think you know who this is, Bracken. I'm going international.
Of course he is.
Go ahead, lead me in.
Bit of a chubby for this guy, so let's hear it, Jack.
I don't know if I can agree with that, but Thomas Van Tonder from South Africa.
Oh, could you hear it in his voice?
I got him last year at the 3K in Palmerton, and I think he was my block card that I used, and I was pumped. So it was a fantastic. He got 4th place there. That was he can compete with anybody. He's won the 100-meter title at OCR Worlds before. So if anything is going to trip someone up, it won't be to him. We've all seen what he did in that first year. The Monkey Twister Monkey appeared at Tahoe. He's, he wouldn't be coming from South Africa if he didn't want this title. And looking at the fields, I mean, he's probably got as good of a shot as ever to win a world title in this 3K. And then my second
question, you brought it up.
Yep.
What's the block card status this year so far? Who has block cards remaining?
No one's using it.
And how does it work? Let's say I were to block this pick. Can you just take him with this next pick?
I would pick a new person and he would be your round 3 person, but you would not have a block card to use against Rich or me for the rest of the season.
But I would be able to then take them with my next pick guaranteed.
He would go in this spot right here for you.
Okay. Desperate times call for desperate measures.
This isn't impacting the final score, by the way, for the season.
Oh, it's not?
No.
What are we even doing here?
We're having fun because remember,
there is no amount of fun to be had in fantasy without actual points assigned and winning and losing.
Well, when I wasn't able to make one of the High Rocks drafts and Lauren drafted, it didn't count towards the score.
Yeah, because you were a petulant little child about it.
Hey, if you want to,
and I didn't vote block for that Thomas, to not count.
Go. I don't need Thomas. I don't
move on to your next pick.
Yeah. All right. I'm going I believe, number 4 on the women's power rankings from Canada. We've got Beatrice Moyen Silvestre. And she
really
just
like
got
her.
Yeah, she got 3rd at she was 3rd, right, in the 3K at FISO. Second. What she was. You're right. Yeah, when Ulrika ended up destroying everybody.
She's the truth, and she's only going to get better as she gets more experience.
All I know is she has beaten Nicole, and Nicole probably universally would have been the number 1 pick on this course. And I feel like I've got the top 2 women in my team right now. Chris.
Okay, well, I'm going for the other top woman. I'm going to take Signe.
Oh, yeah.
I think as far as obstacles go, she's got all the experience on the European courses. Yeah, and she's pretty fast, pretty fit.
Did you go on a run with her recently? Did you go on a run with her recently? Or
I did.
Yeah. Yeah,
It was her first run at altitude, so I'm not sure if it really like super counts, but
yeah, I went on a run with her when I went with Leon a couple times, and Signe is a very, very good downhill runner. So I think that she'll be able to make up some ground, and as obstacle proficient as anybody.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of just cleaned out my picks here, which I don't love. So I'm going to go back-to-back women now to cancel out the back-to-back men I took, and it's going to be Rose Wetzel and Libby Joyce. Rose has nothing left to prove in this sport. She has been on this course. She has done this type of thing for far too long to really do anything other than great. And is this Libby's year, Jack? Does she ascend this year?
I mean, she ended up winning the whatchamacallit, the team race with Lindsay and Nicole, and I'm sure she dragged the two of them along the course because they're pretty slow. But yeah, I think Libby is growing into her own. She's no longer, a younger teenager. So I think, there's a lot of room for improvement over the past couple of years. And I think that we've seen several teenage athletes kind of make some pretty big improvements once they mature a little bit. So that could be her this year or next.
So it's a grizzled vet and it's an up and comer, and just like Leon and Manuel, these two are going to balance each other out.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go back to the men. I'm going to do Daniel Titcombe.
Okay, let's hear about him.
They say he's best in the UK, but unproven outside, and this is his chance to prove himself against everybody else.
You've been talking with Leon?
Sounded very well researched.
I'm a good researcher. I know the right people.
Were you talking to Leon?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, man, he stole. I was hoping to get him as a wild card. This guy's going to destroy people. He's so fast.
He's on my team.
Yeah. Good pick. I approve of it. Let's go. Man, that makes me mad. I really wanted him. I'm going to go Fernando Valenzuela. He was actually leading the 15K like an hour into it last year. Can run on mountains. Aaron Newell told me a few years ago, he's like, I've never seen anybody in this sport from outside the US run mountains the way this guy does. So if he can polish up his obstacle game, he's run here before, clearly fantastic mountain runner. Let's see what he does. And then my next pick, let's go Courtney Washington.
That was going to be my next pick.
Yeah. Chris, you've raced her before, right?
Yes.
What's her skill set?
She's a rock climber background. Mm-hmm. So I think it was the last Savage Race series of last year, or whenever the last one I raced. Everybody was stuck on the last multi-rig.
Yep.
And she came through. I want to say she got second. She was the second person to get through that rig. Very strong on obstacles.
Men and women combined, or getting through it?
Oh, of women.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And then, she's been on the Savage podium a lot this year. So I imagine her running's probably coming up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know that she just went down to Costa Rica as well. She was on a team with Casey Monroe and maybe Vivian down there. So clearly she got selected to be on Team USA for the roster for FISO. So we obviously know how accomplished she is in Savage Race over the past year or two. So I feel like if obstacles get tough, she's going to be someone you want on your team. All right.
That's exactly why I wanted her on my team.
Well, I wanted to have Daniel Titcombe, so too bad.
All right. I'll take Ashley Heller.
Old reliable.
Yeah, there's a good chance she is at least going to be in the top 5 and top 3 for this race.
If she goes top 3 here, that's her best finish lifetime. And yeah. I agree that is possible. With my next two, I'm going to continue my trend of picking people to hopefully balance each other out. And I'm going to take the two most foreign athletes on the men's side, Johan Ingemarsson and Christopher Adolphson. Christopher.
All right, Bracken, let's hear about him.
Well, here's the entirety of my rationale. I have seen the rest of these gentlemen out on course, and I know what they can do. I don't know what these can do, which means if I don't think in my soul of souls, in my heart of hearts, that the rest of these gentlemen have a podium potential in them, that potentially 2 Europeans who are willing to travel all the way across the ocean to get here, they might just have something up their sleeves.
All right.
Highly technical analysis.
Definitely. So, Johan, he's actually a pretty decent runner. Leon was telling me he did a 34:07 for a 10K recently. So, good pick.
Good.
Yep. And Christopher, he's run OCR Worlds in the past. I think he came over to Stratton, but I know he's done pretty well at European Championships. Also, he can obstacle. So, international is never a bad pick at OCR Worlds.
It seems to play well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go John Howard. I think he lives out there, so I'm going with or lives at least in the state of California.
Yeah, he's in Davis, just outside of Sacramento.
Yeah, local advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a monster.
Yeah. I mean, he's super reliable. Nothing wrong with that at all.
Has he raced at OCRWC before? Maybe last year?
I actually don't believe he has. He did FISO for sure because he was down in Costa Rica. He kind of, yeah.
No, I was gonna say, has Ashley Heller done OCRWC much either?
Yeah, I thought that she won a team title before with some in one of the relays.
So, I don't think she's been any of the years I was there.
Might have been last year, but yeah, because I thought she was on a team with Faye Morgan, someone else last year, but
possibly.
Yeah. All right, I am going to go with. I have to pick a guy. Let's go Jeff Shady. He's always overperforming in the 3K. I remember looking at some of his times, and if you combine it, like he'd win age group outright, and if you combine him with elite, he'd be 10, 15 overall. So Jeff Shady, guy knows how to obstacle. And I
like that pick because 3K people crumble. Things happen. People who are not trying to win the race oftentimes wind up very high up in the rankings by not trying to win it off the gun.
Mm-hmm. Valid. Yep. And then my next athlete for the wild card, I think actually just moved to Colorado a couple of months ago and is pretty decent at running in the mountains right now and has a bunch of OCR podiums for Spartan. I'm going Noel Medina.
Oh, he's out at the Ultra House.
Yeah, he's with Anthony, right? Kunkel?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. Elevation race on a mountain at altitude, so could work out.
Can't hurt.
I'm gonna take. I'll take Amanda Nadeau. She's Canadian, right?
From Canada. Yep.
Yeah.
And she has a top 10 finish at Tahoe before. Like in her heyday, she was really, really good.
Yeah.
On principle, I have to take Faye Morgan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know
I left her for you.
Technical proficiency has never been the strongest of her suits, but she's just too good at OCR not to take her.
Yeah.
It hurts not to take IZZ, but Katie Duke was the other one I was balancing between, but Faye Morgan is Team
Katie
TRP.
Duke hasn't done much on OCRWC or on OCR side of things, has she?
Especially not OCRWC.
Not a ton. She Seattle, I think that she was on the podium on a Sunday race.
Okay.
Like a couple weeks ago. And she has done OCR. That's kind of where she started doing that before getting into hybrid. I know she's training with Grayson Kilgore out there.
Because she's really excelled in DECA, but I haven't seen a whole lot of her in OCR. So that's.
She was here last year. and I think she may have DNF'd, but she was like out towards the front until wherever she got caught up. So I think she'll do fine for sure.
All the greats, anyone ranked top 17 or 18 historically by this show has had a front-running DNF at OCR Worlds on their resume.
Specifically 17th or 18th, yeah.
Could be anyone.
Yep. All right, so we do a recap. My team: Nicole Miracle, Thomas Van Tonder, Beatrice Moya Sylvester, Fernando Valenzuela, Courtney Washington, Jeff Shady, and Noel Medina. Chris?
I've got Ethan Brown, Corinna Perkin, Signe, Caroline Daniel Titcomb, Ashley Heller, John Howard III, and Amanda Nadeau.
And then the winning team is going to have Leon Kofod, Manuel Defoe, Rose Wetzel, Libby Joyce, Johan Ingemarsson, and Christopher Adolfsson, rounded out by my wild card of Faye Morgan.
There we go. Well, I'll be 2-0. Let's move on to the 15K. I think it's time for another Wheel Names.
Oh, man, I'm not prepared for this. Not prepared for this.
Chris, you like the Wheel Names?
I do.
Okay, just making sure. For the YouTube viewers, definitely, it doesn't hit the same on the podcast. You got to watch it.
All right.
I like the last spin the most.
Oh, wow. This is real, Chris. Yeah, the last one's super dramatic. Who knows what's going to happen. All right, Bracken.
That's right. And I will take that one spot. And the rest of you can battle for my crumbs. Yeah, get past there. Get past.
Oh, man.
I'll go 3.
All right.
Spot.
Come on. Oh, it almost landed on my name. That would have been great. I guess I'll go 2. All right.
Good choice.
Good choice. Yeah. A lot of options at that point.
All right.
So we've got the 15K. Little bit different than 3K. Some people are only specializing. So, okay, I'm going to take out a couple names. Looks pretty accurate so far. All right, Bracken, you're up.
I'm going to shake things up. Jack, go out on a limb here. I've got a feeling about this one. Nicole Miracle.
Whoa. Give me your reason.
A little lesser known, but I think that she could end up being pretty good at running at altitude and completing technical obstacles.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Maybe she's got a chance.
She's got a chance. She stays healthy over the course of the weekend, which is not an indictment of her, just in general. That's what an athlete would have to do over the course of a weekend. I don't know if anyone here can just flat out beat her in a 15K distance. There's probably only one woman in this field that would even have the metrics to challenge her. And she's pretty green. So Nicole.
Not a bad pick. All right. I think it's his race to lose. Leon Kofod, go get that win. He got third here last year. Ian Hosick's not here. Ryan Atkins is not here.
It's Leon's race.
Yeah.
Except he's going to end up getting second to Manuel. I'll take Manuel.
Oh, a little trash talk there. How come? Why is he going to get second?
Because Manuel is top dog here. It's Manuel's race.
All right.
We haven't yet seen Leon on the heater that he was on last year. We also didn't think he was about to take a podium in the 15K last year, so he's good at surprising us. But last year he had it going, and this year he's talks of this is my last full year doing this, and it's been very difficult, and things just haven't gone as smoothly for him. So if that is a harbinger of things to come, yeah, I could see Manuel taking this.
Assuming he's fully recovered.
Always assuming that, yes.
Yeah. All right. You got another pick, Chris.
I'm going to take Courtney Washington.
In the 15K. All right. What's her mountain running game?
It's going to be good this weekend. That's all. I don't know anything about her mountain running. I think she'll have more of a chance with a longer course. I think she's going to have a better chance to make up time on obstacles, and hopefully people get stuck. So Courtney's our girl.
Yeah, she's not going to fail anything. She's bulletproof. All right. Well, I guess Rose Wetzel would probably be the most logical person to pick here. She's podiumed out OCR Worlds before. You were on the podium with her, right, Chris?
I think
2021, maybe the first year at Stratton, but I might be wrong. But I know she has podiumed at OCR Worlds before, so she's dealing with some personal life stuff going on right now, so that might throw a wrench in things. But hopefully, she's able to go out there and perform. Because this race definitely means a lot to her. So we'll see how it goes.
I think it'll give her some extra fire.
Yeah. Bracket.
Yeah, she's probably the safest pick in the field, which lets me take a wild card early, and I want Beatrice.
Yeah.
I think she's the best overall non-Nicole runner in the field. And she just seems to keep getting better. And she just had experience doing this down at FISO. I expect her to do pretty well here. And then since everyone's all hot and bothered about Mr. Titcomb over here, I'm going to take him.
What if he had a different last name? Would you be saying that?
Yeah. I'm not too hung up on semantics.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. From the UK, he's very, very strong runner. We'll see how it goes. Not too many high elevation mountains in the UK, but
correct.
You don't make the trip over here accidentally. All right. I'm going Fernando again. I've got high hopes for this guy coming from Ecuador, I believe. See how he does.
Certainly could do it. He could win it.
Seriously, like he truly could. He is the best mountain runner in this field. It all depends on how is he going to get stuck on something. Because I know Tyler Veerman, he and Fernando were like right next to each other, leading the race by a decent margin last year with Ian and Ryan Atkins behind them. So to break away from those two guys on a mountain course just tells you about their climbing.
You can't.
And then and then Tyler he got the yips on what was it? Gibbons. And then I think Fernando had a hiccup on something else. So hopefully it doesn't happen. And yeah, he truly could win this race. That would by far be the best South American performance in OCR history if he's able to get on the podium.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to take Signy again.
Yep. This is already a fall for her.
And then I'll take John Howard again.
John Howard, he's pulling a U, doing it all. He's doing High Rocks teams, DECA solo, OCR, like a little bit of everything this year.
That's the secret sauce.
Yeah. Signy, I'm telling you, her downhills, she is going to make up some serious ground. I was hoping to get her with this next pick, but I'm not surprised she didn't make it. But she is really good on downhills. And she'll probably listen and be happy because we were joking about that on our run. All right, time to. Oh man, this is a tough pick actually because Bracken's gonna get who I also want.
Well, we'll see.
It's a mountain course. I've got to go Casey Monroe. She has a couple national series top 3, or she has 2 podiums, I believe, in the national series this year, or Seattle as well. So Casey just had a really good season, and I believe she ran here last year, and probably the most proven track record out of the rest of the women in this field.
Well, she's supposed to be with Faye Morgan on my team, but since you're splitting it up, I'm just going to go take yours. If I have to hear any more on this podcast about how smooth and good Ethan Brown is through obstacles, I'm going to vomit. Give me Ethan Brown and then Sebastian David.
Smooth on obstacles right there. Seb from Canada. All right. This is definitely going to be a wild card type of move, not for a wild card pick. I've never seen him run outside of Spartan race.
That's who I was going to take.
Ciro Perez being on this list, like this guy's won or podiumed in national series races against U.S. top competition at elevation.
At altitude.
Yeah. Like, I'm not leaving him on the board anymore. Let's go Ciro.
The only question we have is, did the struggles on some of the walls and swims and things that we saw from him at altitude, will that be gone or will that be amplified?
Well, I was looking at his Instagram earlier today, and he has been practicing on harder style obstacles. And then there was a compilation clip where he goes up to a 9 or a 10-foot wall, and it takes 3 tries to get it, and then the video just fades out. And I'm like, oh man, is he gonna be like our guy Mervin, just stuck on this wall for the next 2 years, and we'll come back, he'll still be trying it? But I don't know. He's worth a flyer because the guy can run and proven track record. I just don't know how he's gonna do in harder obstacles or on walls, like you said.
In terms of altitude running, he's as good as it's going to get in this field. He's not a very long athlete, doesn't have a big frame. And there are some obstacles out here where if you haven't been on them, it's useful to be able to just reach farther. Yeah. And he's not going to have either of those. So we'll see.
All right, back to back, Chris.
All right, I'm going to take Libby Joyce.
Okay.
And then I'll go ahead and take Noel Medina. He's good on obstacles. He's run a lot of the Savage race. That's more what I know him from. And so now with his time in Colorado, this is time to shine.
Yep. All right. I'm going to go Kaylee Winsma. She has won a Savage race before, and Chris clearly is putting a lot of stock in Savage race also. I mean, you don't win obstacle races just casually showing up anymore. It's hard to do. So yeah, I'm taking a chance on her.
All right. Ashley Heller. I think she'll do better in the 15K than the 3K this year. So I'm excited that Chris reached for her in the first one and that she dropped to me in this one.
Who's your wild card?
Oh, I get to do that right away, do I?
KBB.
Ooh. This I was not prepared for. And
don't forget about Sean Roberts, right?
Yeah. I want to roll with Christoph again.
Yeah.
Christopher Adolfsson.
You just like the name.
My last name is Crocker. Our Germans are going to roll together here.
All right. I don't think he's German. But, all right. Bracken, I'm about to do a little history lesson for you. Okay.
Oh,
now this involves specifically you. You traveled over to the Middle East to race at the 2017 Beast Championship in Hatta Dubai or UAE, right?
I did indeed.
Do you know anybody on this list who beat you, who's still around?
I think Becerra.
Oh yeah, Marco Antonio Becerra. He took third place in that race.
Yep, he had a hydration pack on that day, Jack, and I watched him go past me when I was about 35 minutes into contemplating swallowing enough sand to just end my tortured existence. And I thought he came prepared and he capitalized and he did very well that day. So hopefully he is equally prepared for altitude.
Anybody who wants Bracken to eat sand to end their existence, I'm picking him. Let's go. He's going to be prepared this year as well. I've got high hopes for Marco.
Excellent.
Chris, who are you going with?
Do I have to do a guy, or can it be a guy?
No. This is a wild card. You already have 3 of 3 for each gender.
I'm gonna go Jonathan Stern. Nobody races with more enthusiasm than this guy. So,
as a connoisseur of enthusiasm, I will accept your judgment.
Yeah. He's from Houston, right? Yeah. So there are 2 hosts on this show who used to live in Houston and now live in Colorado, Chris and me. So, all right. Little recap, Bracken. Who's your team?
Nicole, Beatrice, Daniel, Ethan, Sebastian, Ashley, and Christopher.
No last names needed. I've got
none needed. Oh, we have Mr. Titcomb in there.
Not last names needed. Yeah. All right. My team: Leon, Rose, Fernando, Casey, Ciro, Kaylee, Marco.
And I've got Manuel, Courtney, Signe, John Howard needs his last name. Libby, Noel, and Jonathan.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to go 4-0. Pumped. It's going to be a good time.
Keep telling
Chris,
yourself that.
If you decided last minute to go out there, what position would you take?
Current shape.
Current shape?
Yeah, right now. What could you do in this field?
Oh, top 3. I think I could be Nicole in the 15K.
Well.
I like that.
Yeah.
And nobody will ever know.
Chris is back.
Yeah. Jack?
Yep.
What would you take?
Which distance?
Both.
I could see myself. What did I get? I was in 7th at Big Bear, missed my spear at the end, so I can sort of run mountains right now. I'd say about 7th, right there, 5th to 7, probably.
All right.
There is some top talent, but I think that after the top few names, it could go any direction, and some surprise names will be on there. How about you, Bracken?
Well,
we know you don't race anymore.
Like Chris, I believe that if things shook out correctly, I could probably beat Nicole Miracle in the 15K.
Me too. Yeah.
So that's my bold prediction.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Chris. Anything else you want to add? I think a lot of the listeners and viewers are probably curious where we're going to see you next. If you want to give away your details,
they're probably what?
They're probably curious where they're going to see you out on the race cars next.
I will be in High Rocks for the foreseeable future, and then next year,
is there any specific venue, or just look out for High Rocks results? You'll see him.
I'll be at all of them.
Okay, not Amsterdam, though, right?
I will be dropping my new best time at Anaheim.
Okay.
Is the goal.
There we go.
And then next year you'll see me Barkley Marathons in the spring. And I'm actually doing a 10-day horse race across Mongolia next summer. So mixing things up some.
As the kids say, that was not on my bingo card, but it makes sense.
Well, that's the first on this podcast that we've uttered that phrase.
Yep.
10-day horse race across Mongolia. Excellent.
How did you find that? Like, seriously?
It's called the Mongol Derby. And it's like in the endurance world, it's kind of like the peak of endurance riding. So it's actually there's 27 stops. You can ride like basically 10 hours a day, and you ride a horse for about 40 to 50 miles and then swap it out, get a new one. It's kind of like Pony Express style.
Oh, okay. So you're not forcing the same horse to do 10 straight days of this?
No.
Okay.
No,
so I heard the greatest thing ever when they were doing the Olympics. Do you guys know that whenever they do some equestrian events, they have to fly them over? So they flew a bunch of horses to Paris for the Olympics. You want to know the name of that plane? Air Horse One. That's the greatest name that I've ever heard for a plane.
That's pretty good.
That's really good. Yeah. Yeah. Well, all right. We'll leave it at that.
Thanks for tuning in to Race Brain again, ladies and gentlemen. Catch us on YouTube. Don't be like Chris and only listen to the audio. The video is needed for this highly well produced
Bracken, real quick. Did you change your shoe layout?
Jack, you caught on real quick.
Real quick. I've been just doing a screen share and I didn't have it up, but I just noticed this is framing your face very nicely.
This is the second episode we've had this up for, Jack.
Well, I've painted
it dark blue for you.
As if you didn't know that I didn't care about shoes. Here's even more proof. We have two ultra specialists on this show right now, Kraken. So
yeah, you won't catch me dead in any of those shoes.
no way. 0 drop for life.
Well, good luck with that, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. See you guys.